Hey everybody, it's Joel from the Board Game Mechanics. Today I'm taking a look at Keyforge, designed by Richard Garfield. This is another card game that he's made. He's made some other great games like Magic the Gathering. Ever heard of that one? Or Netrunner. So those are both excellent card games that he has been involved with and created. How does Keyforge hold up? How's it different? What does it do? We're going to talk about all that and some more. But first I want to just plug the Board Game Mechanics. We are a podcast and a video creating content kind of thing. If you haven't checked us out before, go to bgmechanics.com and you can find our podcast and all our videos over there. Thanks for subbing too. If you've already subbed, if you haven't, can you consider it? That'd be awesome. Anyway, enough about that. You didn't come here to see a commercial about the podcast and stuff. You came here to learn about Keyforge and see what I thought about it. Let's get to the table, take a look at the basic gameplay of it. This isn't going to be like a totally comprehensive breakdown because there's a huge rule book with all these different terms and things in there. But I did give you about 10 minutes of just kind of trying to understand the basics of this game. If you don't care about that, you can skip forward about 10 minutes and hear my thoughts about it. But anyway, let's get to the table now. So these are the Keyforge cards. We'll get to these in a second. I think first off, we should talk about what does make this game unique is the fact that every deck you get is different. So this one has 3 houses across the top. It's a combination. There are 7 available houses in Keyforge. Each deck has 3 of them that are in the deck. And then it gives you a random selection of cards. It's randomized, but it's also balanced. So each deck is supposed to be similar in strength. I've found that they've done a really good job with this overall. As we start seeing balance issues in the more competitive play, there will be a fix for that. You also get this Archeon card in there, which is going to be your card listing. But then it's also going to be your factions that are available to you. You get these as well. These are key counters or key trackers. The blank side shows that I have not forged a key yet. This side shows I have forged one. That's the whole point of this game, is I'm trying to collect these stones over here to get 6 of them, or even sometimes more, depending on the state of the table, to flip these over. Okay, and that's the first thing you do every turn, is if you have enough amber, you flip one of those over. The first person to flip over all 3 of those wins the game. So this isn't a taking down hit points kind of game, which makes it unique a little bit at least from some of the other games out there that are the collectible card games. Or trading card games or living card games where you're directly attacking each other. On this game, I could never do combat the entire time, and I could still win the game just because I'm collecting amber. So let's talk real quick about initial setup. We're each going to have our decks. We're going to shuffle those up. If you're playing competitively, or even if you're playing at all, you should probably offer them to cut your cards after you shuffle. And then you're going to grab a hand of, if you're first player, 7 cards. If you're not, 6. Why is that? Why does the first player get more cards? Because first player can only play 1 card on his first turn. So that's how that works. The other thing, too, is I want to talk real quick about this before we move on. That is a chain counter that just has a bunch of numbers on it, and then I have a little washer on it. So what would happen in the future is there's a QR code on the back of this deck that we would scan the QR codes for our 2 decks, and then the supercomputer that we don't really know where it's at or what it does would calculate then what the handicap would be for these 2 decks. So then if I had a really great deck and my opponent had a kind of poor deck, I would take some chains in order to handicap my deck to be more fair against them. Basically what chains do is it limits your hand size. So playing without any chains, I would have the ability to draw 7 cards on my first draw. And then the way how a chain works is every time a chain impacts you in a negative way, you lose 1. So let's say I started with 6 chains because I had a really great deck and I was only able to draw 5 cards. Well, that time it affected me, so I move it down 1. So now I have 1 less chain. And as I keep drawing that lower hand size, every time that chain affects me, I take a chain. So at this point, the only way to get chains is that it's an effect of really powerful cards. So I know there's 1 card that destroys everything on the table, all creatures on the table. That's in the house dis, but it makes you take 3 chains. So that's the chain mechanism in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and get right to it. You really still don't get how to play the game probably, or you do and you're just checking out what I think about it. But if you don't know how to play the game yet, a lot of this that I'm saying doesn't make any sense at all. So this is my hand of 7 cards that I would have drawn initially. I'm going to go ahead and put these down on the table because I want to talk about these cards individually. And for the sake of a camera, I want to be able to just kind of spread these out and just take a look at them. Let's go ahead and zoom right down to the table here. So we're going to go right down to the table, and then I'm going to fix my focus right there so we can really get a nice shot of all these. So there are basically 4 types of cards that you have in any deck. Let's just go ahead and take a look at these cards real quick. I think I probably can frame these all up. That would be really nice, wouldn't it? So you can look at them all at once. Um, let's start up here. This is an action card. It's from the House Shadows. I know that because of that symbol right there. There's another neat thing about this card too. When I play this card, it gives me 2 amber right off the bat. Just at the moment I play it, I get 2 amber. The other thing too, if your opponent has exactly 1 amber, steal it. So I could get 3 amber from playing that card down on the table, which is halfway to getting a key. Makes it a fairly powerful card, fairly good card. In Shadows, Shadows as a house tends to be one that steals amber or controls amber. So that's a Shadows card. So in order for me to play that card, I would have to declare that I'm using my Shadows house this round. So we aren't really getting into playing cards a ton yet, but we kind of are. It's worth noting that I would say I'm using the House Shadows this round, and then I can only play Shadows cards or activate Shadows cards as a basic rule. There are some artifacts, there are some things that allow me to play cards from other houses, but that's the exception more than the rule. So we'll talk about what the rule is. And again, the cards break this game all the time and make it, not break it, but like make the rules get bent for you or make things more flexible for you. But that's an action card, meaning at the moment you play it, it happens, it does something, then it goes to your discard pile. The next type of card is an artifact card. So artifact cards are almost like creatures. They aren't really totally creatures because they don't do combat directly, but they kind of stay in a row behind. You have a row of creatures out here and then a row behind them of artifacts. Artifacts, again, you must be in the house that you're declaring for the artifact to be used, but then they just do some kind of action. So you exhaust it by turning it sideways, similar to what we call tapping in Magic the Gathering. But you turn it sideways, that card does its action, and it's done. That's what artifacts are, basically. Urchin, this guy's a Shadows card, too. He steals Amber, because that's what Shadows does. He's a little weak creature. He only has 1 health and 1 strength for, like, fighting. And no shields. That's what that means right there. No shields. So none of these characters out here have any shields, but sometimes there's a number present there that says that anytime that this guy does fighting on a turn, the first, however many that number is, of damage are mitigated by that shield before its base health is taken down. So, for example, there's a 4 here and a 2 here, and 3 damage was done to me. I would only take 1 of those damage. But then on subsequent combats on that same turn, that shield's not going to do anything for me. So it's like kind of a regenerating health kind of thing. It's a clever way to do it because then it doesn't attack as big as a card that has a lot of strength. It only do its base damage here. So when you attack, it does this much damage, but it also has that much health. It really made that whole doing combat thing very simple in this game. Much of this game is very simple compared to Magic the Gathering. If you've played Magic or any other number of head-to-head living card games or collectible card games, this game is going to be pretty simple compared to it. But that's a creature card. That's the 3rd type of card. The 4th type of card is an upgrade. So just clever how that all worked out, that I had all 4 types of cards out here on the table, right? Upgrades are basically things where we're going to have, you put that onto a creature. So this is something too where you don't have to put that on a creature that is of that same house. So this one, again, I'm going to get 1 amber when I play it because it has that bonus there. But this one says it gets +1 armor and gains taunt. Well, taunt's a keyword. That means that you must attack it first. It's keeping all the aggro. I want to talk real quick about these 2 cards too while I've got them on the table because they're both kind of interesting. This one's a 9, which just seems like, whoa, that's a really hugely powerful card. It is powerful, but it's not because this one can soak up a lot of damage, but you can't attack back. There's also a card in the House Mars, which is another house, that is similar to it, but even nastier because it sucks up all the amber that's generated onto it and captures it, which is another mechanic in the game that I won't get into today. But this 9, he takes all the fighting, okay? So also, it also sucks up damage to its neighbors too. So it's kind of just basically a shield. And if you put this taunt on it, it would have 1 armor now. But then also you'd have to attack him for a long time. So he'd be a good, like, just force field for your team. Key Charge is a card that I really want to talk about that's very cool. So the first step you do is you forge a key if you have 6 amber. Sometimes things happen in the game where you aren't allowed to forge a key on your turn. And so you have an excess amount of amber. And you might be able to forge 2 keys in a turn. But you can only forge 1 based on the base game. This would allow you to forge a 2nd key on your turn if you had just access like tons of amber, which is more of a rarity. But what will happen on this game, on this card, why this is positive, is because typically what happens is if I have enough amber that I've generated on my turn, then I will basically forge a key my next turn. But my opponent's going to try and do everything he can to steal my amber, to try and make it so I can't forge keys and block me from getting any keys made. Well, key charge allows me to say I'm going to disregard that, and I'm going to forge a key anyway, but I have to pay 1 amber to do that. So this is just a basic starting hand. I would only play 1 card down. It would kind of make sense to play the Sanctum card if it were a creature or an artifact, because then I can burn that out of my hand and then have a lot of Shadows cards or a lot of Untamed cards to play with the next round. But what I think I would do is I'm probably going to hang on to this key charge for a time when I need to have it. I'm not going to discard that because it's a good card. I really like it. And I think I would play this guy down, is my guess. And then I'm going to start the game off with two amber right off the bat. And then he's going to be my first creature that's out. And he's a 5, so he's pretty formidable. So I would put him down. Now I have a hand of 6 cards. I have a row of creatures here now. And then, like I said, my artifacts would go behind that. Well, the way how I use this guy now is he comes out, sleepy or whatever you want to say. He can't do anything the first round. And so the next step I would have is I would ready my cards. And then he'd be ready to go next turn. Now, let's pretend that he's ready. It's my next turn, and he's out there. I have a couple choices on what I'm going to do with him. I can fight with him. He's going to go head-to-head against somebody. He has 5 health. He's also going to simultaneously do 5 damage. The only way that doesn't work is if there's an ability called Skirmish or Elusive. Elusive creatures don't take damage on defense. Skirmish, they are offensive creatures that don't take damage when they attack. So, similar to other keywords that you might have seen in other trading card games, but this one doesn't have that. So it's just going to get 5 damage as it gives 5 damage. And he can attack and fight something. And that's worth doing because the other ability that can happen is you can tap this guy, exhaust him, and he does an action called Reaping. And when he reaps, he went out and he searched for amber for me. And when he found amber, I get to keep it. I put an amber in my play area. And so the reason why you want to kind of limit the number of creatures that happen is because let's say over time I have, a bunch of creatures that go down. And I've got an artifact that comes out. And then let's say I have 3 more Shadows characters come out. Well, then they're all going to reap. If there's nothing going against me, I could reap with all of them. And I have, 4 or 5 amber coming in at one time. One card that I've really enjoyed in this set is there's one called Jehu the Bureaucrat in Sanctum that just gives you 2 amber as long as you pick Sanctum as a house. So if you can get 3 or 4 Sanctum cards down and have Jehu the Bureaucrat down, you're just generating a ton of amber. So reaping is another thing you can do with your active house that you've picked. Those cards can reap and get you something. Another thing you can do too is you can discard. So let's say that I did pick Shadows and I didn't want this card. I can discard it. Why would I do that? Because I want to get cards out of my hand because I'm going to draw back up to 6 cards when I redraw cards. So I might want to try and cycle cards faster. So I would discard. And that's about it, guys. That's about how you play the game. That's not an exhaustive understanding of it, but that's enough that we can go back to the studio and I can talk to you guys about what I think about Keyforge. So that's Keyforge. I like it a lot. I'm going to go ahead and just say that right now. Where does it fall on the scale? We're going to have to wait for a minute on that. So definitely Richard Garfield, known for Magic the Gathering, known for Netrunner. Netrunner is this hugely asymmetrical card game that was really cool, a lot of hidden information. Magic the Gathering is a game that is just head-to-head. You're fighting each other and trying to destroy each other, basically. This one is unique from both those. And just before we even get into some of the cool mechanical stuff that's like about the packaging on this game, because this game right off the bat is about gathering resources and building something for yourself, stopping someone else from building something. So that's different than attacking each other, kind of. And that definitely plays out and feels that way for sure in this game. I do like the fact that this is a game that, like, literally for probably $12 you could start playing it. Not even for $10 you could get a deck, find some stuff around your house to use for tokens and counters and stuff, and you can start playing this game. So it's super cheap. Anybody who's played Magic the Gathering knows that for $10 you can't even think about getting started with playing anything competitive. Even casual is hard to play with $10. So you could play casually for $10, but you're not going to have a great deck, and you're going to have a great deck in Keyforge for $10. So anyway, let's get right into my points on this one. My pros, I love the fact that every deck is crafted. And by that, I just mean like, it's just from the very start, all the cards feel like they work together really well. The different factions even kind of bolster each other up in different ways. It's just really neat how this all works. Part of me is like, Oh man, if we could customize these decks, you could make some insane combos happen that would be just totally and completely game breaking. And that's why you can't customize it, because every card in this set is great. And that's my next point. Every card is so good because they're not letting you customize the deck. I think every card right off the bat is just great. So I think that with Magic the Gathering, they had to like have those, like exclusive ultra rare cards in there because they didn't want everyone having 4 copies of it in their deck. So they made the cards really rare and hard to get, made them expensive. So that way people wouldn't just, I mean, they do, but the average player would, have some balance they put into their deck a little bit because this game is balanced by design from the very get-go. Every card in there is great. Like every card in there is great. And I think that if you got the cards that do the abilities that you have in like a Magic kind of setting, you'd be like, whoa, this is a really good rare, So I think every card that you have feels like it would deserve its place in a good Magic deck. I just feel like they're able to do that better because of the balance things that are built into this. The art's very good. I do like the art in this game. The art, even like on the like darker Wicked type things, like the Dis faction is like supposed to be demons and stuff. They don't look super creepy and dark. They look evil kind of, but they don't look like they're gonna terrify your nightmares kind of thing. They're just, it's good art. It's well done art, but it's not like photorealistic or like over the top like sexualized art or anything like that. So I like the art a lot in this game, and it's very much a contributing factor to the accessibility of this game, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So the balanced thing on this is every deck is supposed to be pretty well balanced coming out of the package. That's what the computer does. And then beyond that, they're going to have this chain mechanism that's going to start happening. This first cycle, they're letting us just kind of discover what's going on with these decks, and we aren't doing a lot with chains yet. But in the future, there will definitely be chains that make things even more balanced. So this game's going to be more about playing the cards that you have and being against an opponent, doing well against an opponent. And so there's always going to be some luck that you got the right cards or didn't get the right cards. But for the most part, like it's going to be that you played the cards that you had really well, and that's why you won. It's not because you had a fatter wallet and you went out and bought better cards or had a better deck that you built. I know some people love that idea of like, I can build a deck on the cheap that's going to be better than this guy's really expensive deck because I'm clever and cunning and can figure out this combo that's cheap. And that is fun to do. But this game doesn't do that, and it doesn't have to because it's a good cheap game from the start. So that's also a con kind of, is that you can't customize decks in this game. So the no customization thing, if you like customization of decks, you're not going to be a huge fan of what's going on with this guy probably at this point. I don't know. It's just, you can't customize. And so I like that personally. In my taste, my preference, that's a huge plus because I think about the cards in that deck and how I can make that deck work. When I'm playing a game that's a customizable game, I'm constantly thinking, okay, how can I possibly maybe think of a way to maximize what's happening with this deck by putting other cards into it? Or what can I weed out of this deck to make it even better? So I'm not playing the cards in the deck. I'm playing the meta game too. So I'm playing the cards, playing the head-to-head match, but I'm also constantly have this other layer of thinking going on, like of thinking about like, okay, well, this could get weeded out and that would make this better. And then this would pop better if I had 4 copies of that, the 2. I mean, those kinds of things you don't have to think about because your deck's complete and built. So that to me is a positive. People who like customizing and like that extra layer of thinking aren't going to like that. Then my final pro con, there's 2 sides to this issue as well. There's a huge player base for this game already, and that's awesome. I didn't think this game would have as huge a player base as it does. In my small town of around 30,000 people, there are 2 active groups that have about 10 people each in them. So that's phenomenally large. That's way bigger than the Magic group around here has been. That's way bigger than the Netrunner players were, way bigger than anything else that I've seen have a player base around here because it is so accessible and it's a lot of fun to play. So I don't see this one going anywhere for quite a while. People who play this game are really into it. And so that's a pro and a con. I kind of was hoping this game would be a little more casual and that I wouldn't have to study my decks and practice with them, 3-4 times a week at least to stay competitive with the other players out there. But I'm going to have to if I want to play competitively at all or play in the league plays or the tournaments, which is cool. And that means that I'm going to have to be a better player. It's just more of a commitment than I was ready to make. So I'm not sure if I'll stick around with the tournament scene or not, but I love playing this casually. And the guys who are playing tournament right now, man, they love this game. But the other thing too is I have had really great experiences playing in tournament play at this point. Because this game is kind of new, we're all learning together. And so it's just really good sportsmanship right now. Really good, just people being helpful, trying to help you understand rules, understand how cards can work together. And so it's the best of the card playing gang is out helping each other right now in this game. And so I love that. If you ever thought about wanting to play a card game like this, right now is a really awesome opportunity to jump in. And people are being really cool about it right now. So I'm enjoying this game quite a bit. So we're going to get to my next slide. This is my new rating scale that I've started doing. This is where I will take a few factors here and give this thing an overall rating. Accessibility, I'm going to say this is accessible to most people. I'm not going to say wide or to everyone because it's got some stuff in it that's a little tricky. Like you have to be able to read for one thing because there's a lot of reading dependency in this game. So if you aren't able to read, you can't play this game. It's just, and it's got some just, I don't know, some things that you have to be able to think about what's going on with the cards. So I would put an age rating on this one at like maybe a 10-year-old who's pretty bright, 12-year-olds otherwise probably, maybe 14-year-olds at the top end to play well. Theme, I'm going to say this is a mostly accessible theme. There is a demon faction that some people I know personally won't enjoy. They'll be not upset, but not happy that there's demons and that kind of stuff because of religious beliefs. As far as the art in the game, this doesn't have any real nasty, like, misogynistic type art or art that is like portraying violence or gore really at this point. So the art in it and the theme of it allow for most all players to play it. I would say that it's going to be a small fringe group of people aren't going to want to play this game because of theming and art. It's really pretty friendly art and really pretty much non-existent gore kind of stuff in the cards. I mean, really there isn't. As far as the fun goes, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 because I love playing this game most of the time, but there are moments where I get frustrated with it. And if you don't have a good frustration tolerance for games, or if you don't like being attacked, like you can't do what you want to do because the other guy's got a deck just as good as you. He's handicapping you constantly. You're doing the same back to him. So if you don't like that back and forth kind of sparring thing, it can get frustrating at times. I like that okay most of the time. It's not my favorite thing, but even with that, I do enjoy this game and I'm having fun with it. And the other thing too is this game takes 35 minutes or so with two players that know what they're doing. So if you're getting smoked, you get smoked, you put the deck down, pick a different one out, whatever, play again. So replayability, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 right now. I'm only giving it a 4 out of 5 right now, not a 5 out of 5 because the card base is like not huge yet. As there's more and more sets of cards that come out, the replayability of this game is going to be like huge. But I give it such a high rating. I should have really even given it 4.5 probably at this point. You could play the same deck probably 15, 20 times and it feels good still. It feels new. Maybe not new, but it feels like you're not getting stale with it yet. And then after you play it 20 times, if you're tired of that deck and don't like it anymore or whatever, you spend $10, which if we're going to be in the board gaming hobby, you got to make the acknowledgement $10 isn't a lot of money. And you buy a brand new deck and you play it 15, 20 times, you know? And then the other thing too is like as we're getting more and more fans of this type of card game of active player base, already swaps are happening. So like that demon faction that I was talking about that some people may be turned off by called Dis, a lot of people love Dis. So like I know of the players I'm thinking of that don't like the demon stuff in their decks. They've traded their Dis decks for like Sanctum decks, which are like Paladins, in order to like, you know, get decks that they like and then they get ones they like back. So you could swap decks out with people over time, and that would make it even fresher too. So the design and the art on this, man, this game is so clever. The design of this game is, I think, this is going to sound crazy, but I think the actual gameplay and mechanics on this game and the actual like design of the game, it would have been impossible to do this in 1994 when Magic the Gathering came out. I think it's 94. Don't hold me to that. Because there wasn't the computer to do this. There wasn't the custom card printing to do this. And that's fine. I mean, like Magic the Gathering for the last 25 years has been this huge, awesome, cool thing that has brought a lot of gamers into you know the world of gaming. And I don't think we acknowledge often enough influence Magic the Gathering has had on board gaming. It's been huge. But I think this is crazy. But I think that because we're able to custom print decks now, and because we've learned some things from Magic and Netrunner and some of these other games, I mean Richard Garfield, I feel like this design is one that is better than those. I know that's crazy to say. I don't know. I think it took some of the fiddly junk out of Magic the Gathering. It's not present, and all the fun of Magic the Gathering is kind of still there. And I like that it's not. You choose to not play this as a mean kind of nasty thing. You can play it as I'm going to just kind of try and almost play solitaire and just reap and race to get all these benefits. So I don't know. I think it has more flexibility in how you play it. I think it is a better base game. Now, people don't play Magic the Gathering anymore because they love the base game. They do. People do love the base game. I won't say that. But a big part of Magic the Gathering on the competitive scene is people love that you have this thing that you can go home and look through cards and figure out how to make your deck better. So that's something I talked about that I don't care for. People love that aspect of the game. And so those people aren't going to like Keyforge that much because you can't do that. But if you don't like that, you're going to love Keyforge. And I think the actual base, the game, mechanics of the game, is at least as solid as Magic the Gathering, if not better. Which it garners some hate, but that's my opinion. And I mean, I respect the heck out of people who play Magic the Gathering. Those guys are passionate about what they do. They are just like, they spend so much time and they have so much love for what they do. That's awesome. I'm into that you're into it. So this one, though, I'm more into it. I would play this over Magic the Gathering personally because of the reasons I've said. So where am I at with this guy on my final rating? I'm going to give this one a final rating of 4.5 out of 5, which is a good rating, a really good rating. That's saying that, like, I think probably 80% of people out there would probably enjoy playing this game. And that makes it Board Game Mechanics accepted. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. If you have any questions or comments, just leave a comment here in this video. I'm not trying to insult Magic the Gathering players at all. Respect the heck out of you guys. And this is just a different option that fits my personality better. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Maybe think about subbing. All right. Keep gaming.